Raila Odinga's detention and role in multi-party democracy. In an era of unrelenting human rights abuse by the Kenya government, Odinga was placed under house arrest for 7 months after evidence seemed to implicate him along with his late father Odinga Odinga for collaborating with the plotters of a failed coup attempt against President Daniel Arap Moi in 1982. Hundreds of Kenyan civilians and thousands of rebel soldiers died in the coup. Several foreigners also lost their lives. Odinga was later charged with treason and detained without trial for 6 years. A biography released 14 years later in July 2006, apparently with Odinga's approval, indicated that Odinga was far more involved in the attempted coup than he had previously admitted. After its publication, some members of parliament in Kenya called for Odinga to be arrested and charged, but the statute of limitations had already passed and, since the information was contained in the biography, did not amount to an open confession on his part. Among some of his most painful experiences was when his mother died in 1984, but the prison wardens took 2 months to inform him of her death. He was released on the 6th of February 1988 only to be re-arrested in September 1988 for his pro-democracy and human rights agitation at a time when the country continued to descend deep into the throes of poor governance and the despotism of single-party rule. Multi-party democracy Kenya was then, by law, a one-party state. His encounters with the authoritarian government generated an aura of intrigue about him, and it was probably due to this his political followers christened him Agwambo, Luo for the mystery or unpredictable, or Jacob, meaning chairman. Odinga was released on the 12th of June 1989, only to be incarcerated again on the 5th of July 1990, together with Kenneth Matiba, and former Nairobi Mayor Charles Rubia, multi-party system and human rights crusaders. Odinga was finally released on the 21st of June 1991, and in October, he fled the country to Norway amid indications that the increasingly corrupt Kenyan government was attempting to assassinate him without success. At the time of Odinga's departure to Norway, the Forum for the Restoration of Democracy, FORD, a movement formed to agitate for the return of multi-party democracy to Kenya, was newly formed. In February 1992, Odinga returned to join FORD, then led by his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. He was elected vice chairman of the General Purposes Committee of the party. In the months running up to the 1992 general election, FORD split into FORD Kenya, led by Odinga's father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and FORD Asili led by Kenneth Matiba. Odinga became FORD Kenya's deputy director of elections. Odinga won the Langata constituency parliamentary seat, previously held by Philip Leakey of Kanu. Odinga became the second father of multi-party democracy in Kenya after Kenneth Matiba. When Jaramogi Oginga Odinga died in January 1994, and Michael Wamalwa succeeded him as FORD Kenya chairman, Odinga challenged him for the party leadership. The elections were marred by controversy, after which Odinga resigned from FORD Kenya to join the National Development Party, NDP. In his first bid for the presidency in the 1997 general election, Odinga finished third after President Moi, the incumbent, and Democratic Party candidate Mwai Kibaki. He however retained his position as the Langata MP. In a surprise move, Odinga decided to support Moi, his archenemy, even entering into a political merger between his party, NDP, and Moi's much-hated KANU party, which many Kenyans likened to the yoke of oppression. The merger was called New KANU. Previous admirers of Odinga now saw him as a sellout to a cause he had once championed by closing ranks with a despot. He accepted a position in Moi's cabinet as energy minister, serving from June 2001 to 2002. During Moi's final term. In the subsequent KANU elections held later that year, he was elected the party's Secretary-General, replacing Joseph Kamato. It was apparent to many that Odinga hoped to ascend to the presidency through KANU and with Moi's support. In 2002, much to the chagrin of Odinga and many other hopefuls in the party, Moi endorsed Kenyatta, son of Kenya's first president Jomo Kenyatta, but a relative newcomer in politics, to be his successor. Moi publicly asked Odinga and others to support Uhuru as well. This was taken as an affront by many of the party loyalists who felt they were being asked to make way for a newcomer who, unlike them, had done little to build the party. Odinga and other KANU members, including Kalonzo Musyoka, George Saitoti and Joseph Kamato, opposed this step, arguing that the then 38-year-old Uhuru was politically inexperienced and lacked the leadership qualities needed to govern. Moi stood his ground, maintaining that the country's leadership needed to pass to the younger generation. Dissent ran through the party, with some members openly disagreeing with Moi, despite his reputation as an autocrat. It was then that the Rainbow Movement was founded, comprising disgruntled KANU members who exited KANU. The exodus, led by Odinga, saw most big names fleeing the party. Moi was left with his hand-picked successor almost alone, with a party reduced to an empty shell with poor electoral prospects. The Rainbow Movement went on to join the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, which later teamed up with opposition Mwai Kibaki's National Alliance Party of Kenya, NAK, a coalition of several other parties, to form the National Rainbow Coalition, NARC. Amid fears that this opposition super-alliance would fail to unite and rally behind a common candidate as in previous occasions, thus easily hand victory to the government, Odinga declared Kibaki Tosho, Swahili for Kibaki is sufficient, an endorsement of a Kibaki ticket. This resolved the matter of candidacy, and NARC went on to defeat Moi's protégé, Uhuru Kenyatta. The opposition won a landslide 67% of the vote, dealing a humiliating blow to Moi. Odinga led the campaign for Kibaki throughout the country while Kibaki was bedridden and incapacitated following an accident in which he sustained injuries.